Hey there, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Classic Gaming Brothers. I'm Seth.
And I'm Zach.
And we are the Classic Gaming Brothers.
We are the Classic Gaming Brothers.
That's right.
That is right.
And then we wrap the episode again.
Did you have a good Halloween? Because this would be 2 days after Halloween.
2 days after Halloween, this episode will be coming out.
Mm-hmm.
And we are officially in November.
That's right.
Which is the beginning of the end of 2025, as it were.
That's right. And then we go into 2026.
Yes, that's right.
And we do it all over again.
That's right. We start with our top 10 list at the beginning of the year. We say we're going to do a bunch of new things, have a bunch of guests on. We don't do any of those things. Maybe we write one more blog entry, and then we change over to spooky season, and we wrap up the year again.
Then we repeat, and we do it again and again and again until we die.
That's right. Occasionally, we'll redux an episode, and if we wait long enough, we can redux it again.
That's right.
So if you ever wanted to hear more about SSI, here it comes. No, I'm just kidding. My Halloween was fine. It was good. We don't generally get a lot of trick-or-treaters, and that continue to pass on through this year. However, we do always get one trick-or-treater, and that's Classic Dad. He trick-or-treats our house.
That's right.
He drives out. Sometimes he comes with Classic Brother, but this year probably not. And then we will trick-or-treat. And this particular year, Classic Dad spent the night, and in the morning and afternoon of the Saturday, we painted miniatures, because that's what I like to do when I'm not recording a podcast. And Zach, what about you? How was your Halloween in your new abode?
It was great. I didn't get any trick-or-treaters this year, which is fine, but it is what it is. Now I have extra candy.
That's fair.
It was a good Halloween. It was quiet. It was nice. Just hung around, didn't do too much, and I always look forward to the next Halloween.
Same. I think Halloween is a fun holiday. I especially like the old movies,
like Frankenstein.
Yeah, Frankenstein, Creature of the Black Lagoon. Our favorite is not a Universal movie, actually. Well, it might be a Universal movie, but it's House on the Haunted Hill with Vincent Price and the dancing skeleton.
Yes, that is not a Universal
it's not a
film.
Universal
That's Allied
film,
Artists,
but it is a Vincent Price movie, which is just close enough.
Fun fact about House on Haunted Hill: it's a William Castle film, and William Castle is kind of known for his gimmicks. And I'm pretty sure in the original release, when you went to go see House on Haunted Hill, the skeleton, they would actually have like a dancing
it would come out.
Yeah,
it would come out but on the skeleton on the lines. And apparently there was a year when Coolidge Corner showed the playoff, and they had a skeleton that danced along as well.
It's a fun movie. I like how silly that movie is, and then it had a remake that was very serious and stupid.
Yeah, I only like the original. Regardless, as of last episode, we wrapped up our spooky season, and producer Doug requested that we do Golden Sun for our first game to cover when we got back, and we're not doing that, so we're going to get in trouble.
No, we ignored him.
we ignored him, which we seldom do. I think this will be I think we either seldom ignore him or we always ignore him. I'm not exactly sure what the mythos is.
Depends on the canon, I guess.
That's right.
What multiverse we're in.
Yeah, like early Classic Gaming Brothers, I think we always listened to him, and now we just kind of are rogue agents. But so there's no episode for Golden Sun this time around. Maybe soon, maybe by the end of November. Who knows? Zach.
Yes, Seth.
What have you recently been playing?
Seth, recently I've been playing a game that's part of the Sonic Hacking Contest, which was held back in October. This game is called Mean Bean Sue. The Sonic Hacking Contest, for those who don't know, is as the name implies, a contest that's held where people submit hacks of Sonic the Hedgehog games, be it retro Sonic games, such as the games available for the Genesis or Master System, or modern mods of games like Sonic Frontiers or Sonic Generations. It is also a fun time to check out just some of the talent that goes into some of these hacks and fan games. And Mean Bean Sue is a pretty cool one. It's actually being developed by a team called Team Sue, and it's a in-progress hack of Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine with the intention of making it feel like a sequel. And it does. I mean, it does feel like a sequel to Dr. Robotnik Mean Bean Machine. It has this kind of aesthetic of keeping more in line with the Robotnik of the video game versus the Robotnik of the animated series, as the original Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine took a lot of cues from the animated The Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog show in terms of the aesthetic that it held. And this one looks to be more of an adaptation of the idea with references to the video game, including music that's been redesigned in the kind of Mean Bean style. It's only 3 opponents that you go against, but they are Tails, Amy, and Coconuts, and they vary in difficulty. Tails is a very easy one, kind of teaching you how to play. Amy gets a bit more difficult, and Coconuts is on the harder side. But it's a still in progress hack, and the team seems to be indicating that they're pushing forward for more opponents and a larger game. So I'm looking forward to seeing maybe next year if they have an update to it. But that's Mean Bean Sue, being developed by Team Sue, and it's available for free download on the Sonic Hacking Contest website.
What is the Sonic Hacking Contest website?
It is shc.zone,
Oh.
Z-O-N-E.
Yeah. So don't type in sonichacking.com. That may bring you.
If you do sonichacking.com. It goes to huge domains.
Huge.
You can buy Sonic Hacking. You can buy sonichacking.com right now for $500.
Huge domains.
Anyway, Seth, what have you been playing?
So, with the end of October comes the end of Next Fest. I downloaded as many games as I could, and one of the games that I downloaded and played was Sector Unknown. It was a isometric RPG where you escape a prison transport and land on a planet called Maku, and you have to establish a base and work with local factions or attack them and fight a evil corporation that is trying to exploit the resources of the area. So I built a character and I created him after a Star Wars character I once played who was because the game has you play a criminal, so I played a shipjacker, which I played in a Star Wars game, and I was really good at strength and intimidation. He was just kind of a burly guy who could yell at you, and that worked out a lot because I ended up just there was a cannibal who tried to eat me, and I fought him off in my cell, and then I walked out of my cell, and the guard was like, "Hey, what are you doing here?" And I was like, "I just killed a cannibal. You don't want to fight me." And the guard was like, "Okay, I'm gonna leave." And they took escape pods, and then I proceeded to intimidate all the guards as I left the ship. And then you pick up an AI, and the AI kind of rides with you, and the AI has you, it crashes the ship, but then it duplicates itself on a module that you take, and you land on the planet. And then I ran around the planet yelling at people to come work for me, and it worked. There was pirates, and I told them all to work for me, except their leader, who I said, "You can work for me," and then I killed him in a cutscene because I said, "No, I'm just kidding," because my character was not a nice person, and he was just ending up doing good things because of being required to do the good things. So they're like, "You have to fight this corporation," and he's like, "Well, I guess it's my only option. They want to kill me too, so I guess I have to fight them." But he was very kind of mean. It's a fun game. I think it's in early access right now. I put it on my wish list. I don't think I'm going to pick it up until it gets out of early access. There is probably some balancing that needs to be done based on it was just not super challenging because you could just have multiple party members that just maxed out different skills, and then it'll always pick the top skill from one of the party members. So you just had a diverse group of people in your group that had all these different skills, and then you could just dialogue your way through most of the game, which is fine. But apparently in the early access game, the skill checks go really hard, and so you're winning in the beginning and then you just start losing. So I'm gonna wait a little bit until it comes out of early access, and then I'll probably pick it up, but definitely once they've kind of balanced the game out a little bit. But yeah, so that's Sector Unknown, and its demo I think is still available to download.
Great, that sounds fun. Getting into today's episode, we're actually going to be talking mainly about a movie, though we'll be talking about some of the games that were connected to this movie. And this is probably an episode we should have done earlier, but we are focused on the horror season, so we didn't talk about it. And that is Tron. So a new Tron movie is out. So it does kind of make sense to do an episode on Tron. It is in fact out, or has just been out for a bit. As of the recording of this episode, I have not seen the movie, but as of the release of the episode, I have seen the movie, and maybe I will record my actual reaction to the movie immediately following the screening and drop it right here. I personally thought Tron Ares was a pretty decent movie. I thought it had a pretty good soundtrack. Sometimes the music didn't quite work with the scene. I really liked Greta Lee. However, I wasn't a big fan of Jared Leto. Leto is a interesting actor, was an interesting choice, but it would have been, I think, better if they picked someone else that could have handled the role a little differently. Overall, I don't think I would see it again in theaters, but I might watch it again when it comes to Disney.
You should also get Classic Dad's immediate reaction.
Oh, I'll also get Classic Dad's immediate reaction following the movie and drop that right here as well. So I'm here with Classic Dad. We just saw Tron Ares. I thought it was okay. Classic Dad, what'd you think?
It was awesome.
Oh, you liked it?
I did like it.
What was your favorite part?
Let's see. Oh, I think the fact when Ares first realized that he could have emotions.
Yeah, that was a good scene.
That was a good scene.
Yeah.
And then the scene with the baby was a little overdone,
over the top,
but still it was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you like seeing Jeff Bridges?
Yes, it's good to see him alive.
Yeah, that was good.
I just hope they don't do that at the beginning. Don't forget, in the beginning they did that little scene where the actors and were like,
at the beginning of the movie they had the interview thing.
The interview
that was
thing,
kind of annoying.
That was very annoying. They should have done that at the end of the show.
Yeah.
So it's always good to go in late.
Yeah, that's right. All right. Back to the episode, Seth.
I'm glad you guys had those great thoughts about the movie.
Yeah, I mean, those are our thoughts, and hopefully other people agree with them or disagree with them or feel indifferent. Now, before we talk more about the history of Tron, I did want to talk a little bit about my memories of Tron. I remember seeing Tron for the first time. Our dad had a VHS copy of it, and he showed it to me, and I just was, even though it is a older movie, and when I was watching it for the first time, I had seen movies that were far more complex than Tron was. I could still tell that a lot of work went into that film, and I fell in love with Tron. I thought it was such a fun idea. I really liked the aesthetic. I really liked the light cycle sequences and just the idea of being sucked into this computer world and having the computer world be almost a mirror of our world, but with differences and stuff, obviously. And these programs competing in what our arcade games. I just thought it was a really cool idea. I really liked it. Seth, did you ever watch Tron? Did you have any memories of Tron?
I did watch Tron. I also had fond memories of it in regards to the light cycle part. It does really remind me a little bit of Ender's Game, I guess, a little bit in regards to being in this other world and kind of competing for status and stuff like that. Tron, it's like a light cycle where Ender's Game was actual combat.
With Tron, the stakes were much lower, I think.
Yes, that's for sure. I also have fond memories of playing the light cycle game that a childhood friend of mine helped develop. There's actually a Wikipedia entry about the Tron game. I don't know if we mention it.
We do mention it.
We will mention it. But it's pretty fun that I was able to see this game get developed as a child, and then my friend is obviously very brilliant as he was working on that when he was very, very young as well.
Yeah.
And he contributed quite a lot to the game. So it was good. We won't mention his name just for privacy sakes, but it was a fun experience to participate in watching that game be developed and come alive.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, getting into the history of Tron, the origin of the idea for the film goes back to about 1976 when Steven Lisberger, the director, co-writer, and producer of the film, would first see the game Pong being played. He imagined what it would be like to bring together the visuals of a computer onto the screen and thought how it could be feasible thanks to some of the technology that was starting to become readily available. He also had this idea of a Alice in Wonderland-like story and how that would be able to be told using computer graphics involving a parallel world inspired by video games. Lisberger would develop a prototype version of the character of Tron in order to advertise his animation studio, Lisberger Studios. This version of the character is much different than the version that the movie would portray. This was was a buff, bearded man with 2 discs that he would throw, and the discs would explode and then turn into the logo. Lisberger himself, though, compared this design to being very disco with an almost neon appearance, and said that this was kind of just the style at the time. It was why he was emulating it, because everything was kind of disco in the late 70s and into the 80s. Reportedly, when he first saw Pong being played, that faithful day where he got this idea, he imagined what it would be like if it was Tron as like one of the paddles. Like Tron's arena is Pong. So, he was imagining what it would be like to have Tron be the one maybe hitting the ball back and forth between the opponent. Lisberger wanted to develop a story that was for everyone, not just for people who were into video games, which he saw as kind of this clique. So he wanted to develop a story that could be something that could be well adapted and have a wide appeal. He would work with Donald Kushner, a Hollywood producer, to set up an animation studio where they would get to work on developing the full idea for the film. To fund the idea, they would borrow money against the anticipated profits of a television special that they were creating called Animal Olympics, which, let me just say, borrowing against anticipated profits does not sound like a smart idea if something has not come out yet. But Animal Olympics did do decent, so I guess they at least were able to borrow against the money successfully, but I don't think I would recommend doing that.
Slippery slope, for sure.
Also, just as a weird note with Animal Olympics, it is one of the films that heavily inspired the furry fandom. The furry fandom had already kind of existed. It started out in the 1970s, but Animal Olympics is, like, from my understanding, like a key point in that fandom growing to the point that it eventually did. The project of Tron caught the attention of Alan Kay, a computer scientist, who asked to become an advisor on the project and also moved the project from a hand animation style into computer-generated imagery. One of the main ideas was for the film to be animated with live-action sequences. The animation would have been a combined effort of backlit animation with CG graphics. He pitched the idea to different companies, and they all declined. Eventually, though, Lisberger was able to get the support of a company called Information International to assist them with some of the early computer graphic design.
Richard Taylor, a representative for Information International, would meet with Lisberger, and they would come up with an idea of mixing backlit animation with live-action photography and CGI. Lisberger had invested about $300,000 personally into the project and acquired $5 million in funding, but wasn't able to get the attention of any major studios. Warner Brothers, MGM, and Columbia all declined. Then, here comes Mickey Mouse. Walt Disney Productions had been wanting to develop films that were outside their usual mix of animation, family-friendly productions that they were doing. It was at this time that they were producing projects like The Black Hole or Condor Man, and they wanted something to match the excitement that was still bubbling over from Star Wars. And they were hoping to create a Star Wars of their very own, because this was many years before they would just find out that it was easier to just buy Star Wars versus creating their very own. So they were hoping that Tron could be Star Wars. Despite the interest in the project, though, Disney was still hesitant to fully fund the project because I believe, in my heart of hearts, Disney is cheap. Lisberger wanted around $12 million to finish the movie, and it was a big gamble as he would be using the technology that was largely untested at scale that he envisioned. So he's like, give me $12 million and I'm going to make a movie using technology that nobody's used before.
It's also his first feature film.
It's his first big movie using a technology that wasn't proven out, and he needed $12 million, which in today's money, essentially $47 million, use an unproven technology, and he'd never directed before. Well, he never directed a movie before, because Animal Olympics was a show, wasn't it?
It was a TV movie.
Oh, TV
and it was
movie.
fully animated.
He's never directed a feature film.
Yeah, with like actors and stuff. Like, this was a very different thing than Animal Olympics.
Disney said, we're not going to give you $12 million. What we will do is we will give you enough money to do a test reel, and you can show us what your technology is. And if you prove to us that the test reel and what the technology is important enough, then we will write you a check. So Lisberger put together a test reel of a person throwing a flying disc in a combination of a live action and backlit animation style. Disney was impressed by it and wrote the check and fully funded the production. Bonnie McBride would be brought in to write the first draft of the film, basing one of the characters in the movie, Alan Bradley, on real-life Alan Kay, who would become her husband. She also created the movie version of Tron and the character of Kevin Flynn. Different people were suggested for Flynn to be cast, with Robin Williams being a name that was thrown out, but the role would go on to be landed by Jeff Bridges. The movie was shot in Super Panavision format, with the real-world scenes shot in 65mm color and the grid scenes being shot in 65mm black and white, which would then be colorized. The set and costumes would be designed by Jean Girard, aka Mobius. Vehicles were designed by Sid Mead, and the environments were designed by Peter Lloyd. Their work all overlapped, however, and Mobius would end up designing the Solar Sailor, and Mead designed some of the terrain and the logo. 4 different computer graphics firms worked on the movie: Information International, MAGI, Robert Abel and Associates, and Digital Effects. The computers being used at the time weren't able to do animation, so frames had to be produced one by one, which was probably annoying. One report has that in certain scenes, each frame would take up to 6 hours to produce. And if you've ever watched a movie, there's a lot of frames. Also, there was no way to print the digital animation onto film. A camera would capture the individual frame directly from the computer screen's monitor, which is like taking a screenshot with your phone.
Yeah.
Instead of the snipping tool.
I rewatched Tron just recently. You can't tell that they did this method. It's a very impressive film. If you told me that this process was so arduous and so obnoxious, I would have been shocked. I would have been like, wow, yeah, I mean, obviously it would have taken a lot of time. It was the 80s, but also, like, it seems so flawless.
Which probably goes to their standards, right? So, like, they probably were, they weren't probably. They were operating at a pretty high standard, and the work may have been arduous, but there was a lot of passion and also a decent amount of money flowing around.
Now, the story of Tron itself involves Kevin Flynn, a former software engineer of the company Encom, and Flynn currently operates a video arcade. He's been attempting to hack into Encom with a program called Clue in order to find evidence that the current vice president of Encom, Ed Dillinger, only got to where he was because he plagiarized Flynn's work. Flynn had worked on a bunch of games while he was working at Encom in his off hours, and one day he came into the office and all of his data was missing, and suddenly Ed Dillinger was presenting games to the board and saying, look at all these games I made. So Flynn got a little mad about that. He ended up leaving the company, and he's trying to get his data back. Clue, though, is killed off by the Master Control Program, or MCP, which is a security force that guards Encom's most private data and also has a mind of its own. The MCP has been grabbing programs from different places thanks to the early versions of the net in terms of connectivity, and using these programs for its own needs, and even plans to potentially hack into the Pentagon. Flynn's not aware of any of this, by the way, but that's just some fun facts about the MCP. Flynn decides to go directly to Encom, where he's helped out by 2 employees and kind of friends of his, Laura and Alan Bradley. Laura works in the laser design firm of Encom, because they have lasers, and Alan has been working on a variety of projects, including a program named Tron, which he hopes can help Flynn out. When Flynn accesses one of the terminals in the laser lab, the MCP activates a laser and sends Flynn into the computer itself, where he awakens on the Grid, a digital frontier run by the MCP and his minion Sark, in a totalitarian regime where programs are forced to participate in grueling and dangerous games, and they must also turn to the MCP in terms of their support and give up their religion, which is the belief in the user. Tron the movie has this overarching theme of philosophy in that programs believe in the user as a higher power. They were created by the user, and the user is who they always aspire to eventually contact. But Sark and the MCP are trying to push it into the minds of all these programs that the users don't exist. Flynn learns that the programs on the Grid are also doppelgangers of their users. So when he meets Tron, he mistakes him for Alan. When he sees Yori for the first time, he mistakes her for Laura. And he ends up teaming up with them to stop stop the MCP and get his code back. When the film opened in theaters on July 9th, 1982, it would gross approximately $50 million for both its domestic and worldwide box office. Additionally, around $70 million was made in merchandise sales. Despite all this money, Disney saw the film as a financial disappointment. Remember, they sunk about $17 million into it, so even though they made back their money, it was still a significant loss.
Right. And here's the thing. Disney wanted Star Wars. That's what they wanted. So if you say, well, $50 billion is a significant amount of money for box office success on $17 million. But if you look at Lucasfilm and what they did with Star Wars, Lucasfilm invested $11 billion to make Star Wars, and their box office was $775 million.
Yes.
Which $775 million is a lot larger than $50 million. And that's what Disney wanted. Disney saw Star Wars and said, make me a Star Wars. And they made a Tron, which, yes, it did do $50 million, but it did significantly less than $775 million.
Right.
Which is why Disney was sad.
Critics were mixed on Tron. People like Roger Ebert gave the film 4 out of 4 stars, called it a dazzling movie from Disney, though did criticize the fact that the movie was not really about human nature and more just a spectacle, and he also compared it negatively to Star Wars. Gene Siskel would equally praise the film, calling it a quote-unquote trip, and both critics would give the film the coveted 2 thumbs up. Some reviews, however, such as that from Variety, criticized the over-reliance on digital visual imagery against what they would consider a story that overall missed the mark. In the years since, Tron has held a 61% rating on Rotten Tomatoes and has a lasting effect on cinema. Famously, it inspired John Lasseter, the head of Pixar, to see the potential of using computer-generated imagery for movies, and would say that without Tron, there would be no Toy Story. The French house music group, and one of my favorite music groups, Daft Punk, would be inspired by Tron to the point where they would go on to score and cameo in the sequel, Tron Legacy. It also had the impact of inspiring a bunch of video games based on the IP.
Tron was about video games, so it, of course, had video games made about it. The first was simply called Tron. Developed and published by Bally Midway for the arcade, Tron, the game, was released in 1982, and it consisted of 12 levels, each being named after a programming language. There are also 4 different subgames, with these being influenced by the Tron movie plot. The 4 games are I.O. Tower, where you have to guide Tron to a flashing circle in the input-output tower, while avoiding creatures called grid bugs. The next is Light Cycles, a variant of Snake, where you control Tron's light cycle, and you have to get an enemy bike to crash into a wall of light that you generate. Then there's MCP Cone, where you must break the rotating shield guarding the master control program. Finally, there's Battle Tanks, where you guide a red tank through a maze and destroy enemy tanks. One of the original plans for the Tron game was for it to be a first-person game using vector graphics, but it was decided to go for a collection of mini-games using familiar technology as they needed to complete the game by a given deadline. It's estimated that around 10,000 cabinets were sold and around $30 million was made in revenue, which was primarily taken in quarters.
That's a lot of quarters.
It's a lot of quarters. It's in fact 120 million quarters.
That's so many quarters. Now, with the success of the Tron arcade sequels, came up. Bally Midway quickly put out a sequel, Discs of Tron, in 1982. Unlike their first game, though, this would only be 1 title, as opposed to 4 minigames. The design of the game was inspired by the Hyali sequence from the original Tron, as well as the final battle with Tron and Sark, where they use their identity discs, which are these glowing discs that are plot relevant and go on the back of the different programs, and also are just glowing frisbees, and they throw their identity discs at each other in the movie, so they do this in the game. The sequel was less popular, largely due to the fact that the video game crash would occur the next year. So, and it was getting close to the end of the year when this game came out, so people were already on the downward spiral out of arcades. Now, the first home console Tron game would be called Tron Deadly Discs for the Intellivision, Atari 2600, and the Mattel Aquarius. The game was developed and published by Mattel, and later published under their M Network label when it was brought to the 2600. It's a wave combat game where you control control Tron, and you have to fight off various disc throwers and other enemies. The goal is to survive as long as you can and get a high score. It's pretty simple. A remake was announced for the Intellivision Amico, but that system is currently shovelware, so I don't know if that remake is ever going to come out.
One of the next games would be Adventures of Tron, released in 1983 for the Atari 2600, developed by APH Technological Consulting and published by M Network, aka Mattel. Adventures of Tron features you playing as the titular Tron in a multi-floor area where you must travel up and down elevators and fight off different enemies. You collect floating bits, and the higher the floor, the higher the point value. Mattel would also release Tron Solar Sailor for the Intellivision, which was released as part of the limited number of games that used the IntelliVoice module. The IntelliVoice module is a peripheral that enables some games to have limited voice functions. For Tron Solar Sailor, it sounded like this.
Mattel Electronics presents Tron. Seven, 4, 6, 2, 6.
In the game, you have to traverse a grid of different enemies. You are given a code, and when you reach the correct sector, you enter the code to advance. You can attack enemies, but it will drain your energy. If you run out of energy, you lose.
Tron Solar Sailor would be the last Tron game for a while. Unofficially, there was a game called GL Tron, released in 1999, and a game called Armage Tron Advanced in 2001. Armage Tron Advanced is the game that Seth was referring to at the beginning of this episode. It was the game that was developed by a friend of his back in the day, and both games are very similar, though GL Tron, I don't believe, had multiplayer capabilities, while Armage Tron Advanced was multiplayer. In the games, they're light cycle games, where you pilot the light cycle on a grid, and you have to cut off your enemy by having them crash into the energy wall. I say that the gameplay is akin to Snake, if Snake was also multiplayer and very chaotic. Armage Tron Advance is still available today to play on Steam if you want to play it, though it goes under the name Retrocycles to avoid any copyright infringement. The next official game would be in 2003. This would be Tron 2.0 for Windows and OS X. 2004, there was a port for the Xbox and a port to the Game Boy Advance also in 2004. Unlike the previous games, which were adapted from various elements of the first movie, Tron 2.0 is a sequel to the movie. Developed by Monolith, it's a first-person shooter where you play as Jethro Bradley, the son of Alan Bradley, being sent into the digital world. In the story of the game, Encom has been taken over by a new company called Future Control Industries, aka FCON. One night, Alan is kidnapped, and Jethro, called Jet, must go into the grid to find out what happened to him. At the same time, an executive named Thorn from FCON has attempted to digitize himself onto the grid, but was corrupted and takes the form of a virus that is now spreading through the system. So Jet must stop Thorn and save his dad. On release, Tron 2.0 received mixed but favorable reviews. IGN would rate it 8 out of 10, PC Gamer gave it a 91%, and GameSpy gave it 4.5 out of 5 stars.
The story of Tron 2.0 would continue in a comic series called Tron, the Ghost in the Machine. Then the story would be decanonized by the release of the film, Tron Legacy. Tron 2.0 would be the last of the games taking their cues from the original Tron film. Later games would adopt the elements of Tron Legacy, such as Tron Evolution. However, the classic aesthetic would return in the game Kingdom Hearts 2. In the game Kingdom Hearts 2, Sora, Donald, and Goofy enter a version of the Encom grid. That is acting as the computer system for the world of Hollow Bastion. It's on this grid that you meet Tron and you have to fight Sark and the MCP.
Yeah. Kingdom Hearts does this thing where, like, you basically replay the story of the movie that you're in, but they make it about the Kingdom Hearts now. So, like, Sark and the MCP are secretly working for whoever the evil person is in Kingdom Hearts 2. I think his name's Xananort.
Does that make Tron a Disney princess?
Oh, yeah. Now, Tron's legacy would be evident in the games that inspired it and the movies that were inspired by it. And a direct sequel, Tron Legacy, would release in 2010. Tron Legacy is a fun movie. It features a character named Sam Flynn, who's Kevin's son, and Sam enters the grid to find his dad, who's been missing for like 20 years. Upon arrival, he meets a revived version of Clue, who is evil and has taken over the grid. I thought it was a post-credit scene, but I rewatched Tron Legacy and it is not a post-credit scene. But there was a, like, I think it's a DVD special where it implies the return of the Master Control program. Though this implication would go nowhere. Another sequel, Tron Ares, released in 2025, stars Jared Leto as a computer program named Ares, who was created to enter the real world and serve as a soldier. Based on the trailers, the idea is that soldiers can be programs, so you're not losing actual people, and you can just regenerate a soldier whenever you need them. Ares rebels, I think. And that's all I really know, because again, I haven't seen the movie as of recording, but maybe I don't want to spoil it. Depending on how my review was, maybe I'll kind of allude to the events of the movie or whatnot. To be honest about Tron, it's a series that has been largely forgotten about. When Tron Legacy was coming out, there was kind of a resurgence of Tron. There was actually an animated series called Upbringing, which is really good, and then there was just nothing for a while, and I feel like Disney has this thing where they need to revive Tron every now and then to show that they still care about it and also to like extend the copyright out longer. But also, I think they just don't know what to do with it. So like for the first, 30 years or so, it went completely ignored. From basically 1982 until 2010, it was completely ignored. And then it was ignored again for another 15 years after 2010 until this year. Like that's not a cohesive franchise. Right. If you have 3 movies that were released over the course of almost 50 years,
yeah.
like upward to 45 plus years, that's stupid, but it's Disney.
And also it's just like them putting Tron's name on something that they were like, we spent $17 million back in the day on this and we're still kind of mad that it didn't make $700 million.
Right. It's almost like they're trying to make back that money by spending more money. What's ridiculous to me is that this most recent Tron movie, and this is not a spoiler, this is a fact from what I've read in like IMDb, Bruce Boxleitner, who played Tron in Tron, is not in Tron Ares. So Tron is not in Tron.
Huh.
Like it wasn't that he didn't want to do it, like Disney just didn't invite him.
Maybe Disney didn't like him.
Yeah, who knows? Maybe 15 years from now we'll get Tron 4 and there'll be another renewal of Tron. I having just recently rewatched the movies, literally I rewatched both of them the night prior to this recording of the episode, as A, I wanted to get ready for this episode, and B, I want to get ready for Ares. My thoughts are this. The first Tron is an amazing piece of cinema in the sense that it was a lot of effort that went in to make a movie be cool and use all this technology that was brand new. It just kind of seeps the hard work and dedication this team had to bring something to life. However, it's not a great story. The story is kind of bland. It's literally about a guy looking for code, and most of the movie is spent being in awe of the effects. And when you rewatch it now, it's more of being in awe of what they were able to do in 1982. Tron Legacy is like the same thing, but without the awe, because in 2010 doing these effects was a little easier. So the film still looks really nice, but honestly the reason I like Tron Legacy is because I think the music is amazing, and I think the music just holds the whole film together, which is saying something, because like usually a movie should be the sum of multiple parts, not just the sum of one part. Who knows? I might have my own opinions about Tron Ares, but Tron as a franchise holds a special place in my heart, and I'm looking forward to seeing Ares and seeing what Disney will do with this franchise, though I've heard rumors they're not doing much else with this franchise.
Yeah, well, they gotta wait a little while, right?
Yeah, another 20 years.
Then they'll release Tron Ares Part 2.
That sounds about right. Well, to get into our retro rewind, Seth gave me a game that was symbolic of the Thanksgiving season. He gave me a game called Alfred Chicken for the NES, released in 1993 for a bunch of systems. I played the NES version. That is what he requested. It was developed by a company called Twilight, published by a company called Mindscape, and you play as a chicken named Alfred. It's a platforming game where you collect gems and use your beak to solve different puzzles and stop enemies. It's a fun game. I was a bit annoyed by the fact that it's one hit, one death, but that's pretty standard for the era of NES games. But I I enjoyed it. I thought it was fun. It's just kind of it's a platformer, so you're jumping around and you have to avoid enemies, or you can use your beak to stop them. The music's pretty catchy. Overall, I think Alfred Chicken holds up. Next week, Seth, you can play Willow for the NES.
Great. I'm looking forward to it. Zach had me play Attack of the Killer Tomatoes for the NES, developed by Imagineering and released in 1991 for the NES in Europe. There was also a Game Boy version released in 1992, which was a separate game that was not a port. Also in 1992, the North America would get a NES release as well, and this is the version that I played on the NES. You play as Chad, who's trying to stop Dr. Gangrene from releasing a doomsday tomato while fighting a horde of tomatoes off. You have to move around the screen, jumping on enemies with 2 buttons, one for jump and one for jump higher. The first level has streetlights that are lighting up sections of the road, and when the enemies are in the dark, they can't be killed or something. The boss is like very difficult to kill in the shadow, and he doesn't like to get out of the shadow. Also, I wasn't sure if he's the boss. It was just the end of the screen, and I didn't know where to go. And I couldn't know how to proceed further. And if you're smarter than me when you play games, you can probably figure it out if you enjoy classic NES platformers. However, I think it's a bit outdated and doesn't really hold up, and that's mostly due to wayfinding and figuring out what to do next, which is, in my opinion, how you play a game is knowing how to progress in it. But don't look at me. Imagineering can do whatever they want. So in conclusion, I don't personally believe that Attack of the Killer Tomatoes holds up. Next week, Zach, you can play Shattered Steel for MS-DOS.
Great, I will. For a second, when I saw that you'd written down Shattered Steel in the notes, I thought you meant Silent Steel.
Do you want to play that instead?
I'll play Shattered Steel. I think I'd already played Silent Steel some time ago.
Here's your coffee, XO. Did we do it? We did an episode on Silent Steel, didn't we?
I don't think so.
I thought we did.
Oh, look that up. If you have any memories of Tron, let us know. Email us at classicgamingbrothers@gmail.com. You can let us know what you thought of the movie, any of the movies, all 3 of them. I don't care. Or the games. If you played any of the games, either the classic games, the arcade game, or any of the like Tron 2.0 or anything like that. Let us know. Again, you can reach out to us via our email. You can reach out to us via our social media, such as our Facebook or our Blue Sky. You can find us Classic Gaming Brothers, CG Brothers Pod. You can also find us on Twitch, where we barely stream, or YouTube, where we post this podcast, and that's Classic Gaming Brothers for both. Our website is www.classicgamingbrothers.com, and yeah, you can find us wherever podcasts can be found, if I didn't mention that already. Podbean, iTunes, or iHeartRadio. Seth, am I forgetting anything?
Don't play games like my brother.
And don't play games like my brother.
I've been Seth.
And I've been Zach.
And we've been the Classic Gaming Brothers.
That's right.
End of line.